Kicking off the list at number 10, sea pigs. This list gets creepy and or crawly, but first we gotta ease into the Arctic Ocean. We gotta start off this haunting list with the sea pig. Look at this little guy, okay, the pug of the ocean. He looks like a stress ball with feelings. What's going on with him? They look like something that would be microscopic, but really they're 6 inches long, wide, round, big, I don't know, they're pretty large. They stick together, and I mean that in a literal sense. Sea pigs will travel in large gatherings. They live in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean, so they're hard to find, really. Their mating routine is also still a mystery. We have no idea how they do it. And just by looking at them, we're like, no guesses, certainly no guesses from me. All we know is that they travel in groups, so I don't know. Sounds like it's a good time, at least. Lifespan and mating life, total mystery. All we know is that they eat decaying matter on the ocean floor. Kudos to the crew over at Mbari. The footage they find of these deep sea creatures is always fascinating. It's always so otherworldly over at Mbari. Are you guys hiring? I'm afraid of the ocean, but you know, I'll do some behind the scenes stuff, who knows. I'll just edit the weird fish. I'll put the text in. Like, what the f is this? Ooh. Number 9, rock bottom. A little over a year ago, scientists camped out in the middle of the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf for nearly 3 months. Why? All in the name of science. Yeah, we're getting cold. Geologist James Smith from the British Antarctic Survey slept in a tent. Who does this? Why do you choose to do this? James Smith, apparently. Here we go. He flew 5 hours out to this ice shelf. Him and his team had to melt 20 tons of snow in order to pour hot water through this ice shelf for 30 hours straight. When the team lowered their gear down through this 3,000 feet of ice, they couldn't get a sample of sediment from the ocean floor because they hit a boulder. I mean, the odds here alone, I mean, the entire seafloor is basically flat and they end up hitting this thing. At first they were frustrated, but this boulder that is 160 miles away from daylight is home to microbial malts, these alien-like sponges. These cylindrical sponges, possibly hydroids. I love seeing scientists get jazzed about stuff. They're like, oh, this rock had absolutely no business being here. Like, guy, you just melted through ice for 20 hours in the middle of Antarctica. I feel like it's the other way around. Imagine if those sea sponges could talk. They're like, oh, of all the spots, really? Please close that. The first shred of light and it's just a big GoPro coming at them. They're like, what is that? Number 8, emperor penguins. They're as glorious as their name hints towards. I remember watching Happy Feet a lot growing up. I was really into penguins and tap dancing for a hot minute there. That movie changed the game. The main penguins here, they're all emperor penguins. Robin Williams' character, Lovelace, he's a rock hopper penguin with the cool, you know, the fluffy eyebrows. The other guys are all emperor penguins. The colorful orange necks, the OG characters, they're all beautiful. They're the largest penguins on the planet and their breeding habits set them aside from the rest. Once the female lays an egg, I'm not gonna do sound effects for this whole process. I don't know why I did that. That's so stupid. Once the female lays an egg, she'll leave it with her mate for an incubation period, but she'll walk over 50 miles to the ocean just to get food. The mate has to fast for around 100 days, just waiting for his next meal. Once in the water, these emperor penguins really go for it. They soar. They can dive up to 2,000 feet, which is far deeper than any bird in the animal kingdom. And they can hold their breath for around 20 minutes, which is incredible. Longest I've gotten is 3 minutes, but I'm coming for you, Mumbles. Number 7, chinstrap penguins. Okay, from happy feet to slappy feet. Chinstrap penguins are the most aggressive of the penguin family. They're crazy. These guys are nuts. They're tiny. They have to be aggressive. I mean, look at them. They only grow up to 30 inches in length. They're so tiny, but again, they're so aggressive. They only grow up to 30 inches in length, so they have to be, you know? These ones don't tap dance. They actually crump battle you. Yeah, they embarrass you in front of you and your kin. Chinstraps are small and quick because their diet requires them to be. With krill waiting 50 miles offshore, chinstrap penguins have quite the commute. Their thick skin is also quite literal. Their blubber keeps them warm during these long commutes. As long as no leopard seals show up, their commute is pretty smooth sailing. Number 6, the sea spider. Okay, we had a few ha-has with the penguins. Now it's time to get weird. Now we know why we're here. The sea spider, thankfully, is not an actual spider. It just looks like one, kind of like Daddy Longlegs. This is a Daddy Cold Legs. It's a marine arthropod, and the reason it's so haunting to look at is because of polar gigantism. Many species have this. Their climate being so harsh, lack of nutrients, lack of sunlight, friends, family, etc. Scientists believe it's because sea spiders have slowed down their metabolism, so much so they require a small amount of oxygen to survive. So over time, the oxygen around these sea spiders turn them into like Captain America. They just juice them up. They take on way more than they're adapted to. And in turn, we get giant, terrifying sea bugs. Nice. Number 5, scale worms. Upon first glance, again, scale worms look microscopic. They look like tiny bacteria that are covered in scales. Hairy, weird, gross scales. They're pretty horrifying to look at. These guys are actually 8 inches long on average, so they're not tiny at all. This is what they really look like. The Antarctic scale worm is covered with elytra, these natural bristles, but the most distracting feature here has to be its mouth, head, mouth thing, yeah. This part on its mouth can literally fully retract. It can go inside out, yeah. It can suck its own mouth inside of its body, and then when it's time to eat, it pops out and then claws its prey to pieces. Horrible. I saw a video of it, I almost threw up. We went from happy feet to retractable mandibles. Cheers, that's how we do it here on MA. Number 4, glass sponges. Antarctic glass sponges. They don't get their name because they're translucent, they get their name because their skeletons contains silica, which is a literal component of glass. How neat is that? Back in 2013, a massive discovery took place. Scientists figured out how these glass sponges grow in size. Well, they figured out that they do grow in general. As our ice shelves slowly disappear, the numbers of glass sponge sightings, they increase. They don't hunt down prey at all, obviously. They spend their entire life quite still, just eating the leftovers that happen to drift along their merry way. Their food was so sparse as well, for a long time it was fully believed they couldn't possibly grow, because what would they possibly eat? The more we learn about glass sponges, the better, because these little guys tell us a lot about climate change. We're like, how is it happening? What's going on? Nothing's happening. They don't talk much. They're really quiet. They don't have mouths or eyes. Number 3, the springtail. Also known as the elephants of Antarctica, springtails are hexapods. They're exclusively land animals, whereas penguins, they sometimes, bop and swim. These guys are only on land. They're tiny as well. They measure up to about 1 millimeter on average. They look like earwigs almost. Ice earwigs that eat bacteria. Horrible. They got a big old butt too, so you're probably gonna notice if you see one walking by. They live on average 1 to 2 years, and they produce glycerol, which helps them, not freeze to death. That always helps. Antarctic springtails live longer than springtails in other parts of the world because the frigid temperatures, again, slows their metabolism down so much they can just survive off basically nothing. They're not immortal, but as far as ice insects go, they're close. They're pretty mighty. Small but mighty. Number 2, the Hoff Crab. When these creatures get their names, it's often in relation to their appearance or their super ability. The immortal jellyfish ages in reverse. The glass octopus is otherwise see-through. The Hoff Crab gets its name because it looks hairy, like David Hasselhoff. He's hairy as well. Yeah, David Hasselhoff just tweeted the Hoff Crab with this photo. So random. Imagine following him and you see this, you're like, what's going on? Why? We love it. The scientific name later given was Kiwa tyleri, appropriately named after its discoverer, Paul Tyler from Southampton University. Found in the East Scotia Ridge on the Southern Ocean, where the water is too cold for the Hoff crab, these guys are just covered in bacteria, hence their hairy Hoff look. Because it spends so much time staying warm near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor. The guy literally just sits around a deep sea campfire just collecting ice cold bacteria. What a wild life. He's a deep sea hairy caveman, essentially. When it comes time to eat, the Hoff crab just scrapes off a little bit of bacteria from any part and then just gives himself more food. He gives himself a little haircut salad. We love those. And finally, coming in number 1, the colossal squid. Not to be confused with the giant squid, those are similar but smaller. Still terrifying, but more petite. As its name gives away, the colossal squid is much larger. They live in the darkest, coldest depths surrounding the waters of Antarctica, and these squids, on average, they're around 46 feet in length, with the females being the largest of the species. The biggest and baddest, of course. They have large tentacles with suckers equipped with razor hooks, so whatever it does grab, it's certainly not letting go anytime soon. Its diet consists of large fish, and when I say large, I'm referring to, 7-foot long Patagonian toothfish, not a goldfish. They're colossal, and they try and fight whales sometimes. They're crazy. They have no regard for the size of others. They're gonna fight anything and everyone. They're more often than not marked up, suggesting they've been in a few deep sea tussles. On top of being magnificent, they're quite mysterious. Only 2 specimens have ever been collected, with the second being recent in 2014. Some believe this is the closest living relative to the kraken. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Sound off below. Either way, I'm gonna go throw up. I never wanna see any of these in real life. Awesome. Number 10, sandhoppers. Sand hopping in Antarctica? Get out of town. A sandhopper sounds like something from the movie Dune. These amphipod crustaceans can be found more often than not near shores, but also in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean. They eat decaying or dead material. I mean, just by looking at them, you can tell that they eat leftovers. They're around 1 meter long to a few inches long. They're tiny, little buggy dudes. They're pretty unique as well. When we think of the bottom of the food chain, we don't connect beauty with them a lot, right? These sandhoppers can come in many different shapes, sizes, and even colors. Some are pale, some are camouflage, some are bright red. They're all unique New Yorks. Look at them go. Number 9, ice fish. Fish that are icy. Yes, here we go. Now we're back on track. This makes much more sense for Antarctica. Ice fish didn't get their name because they live in a place full of ice. They literally are the most cold-blooded creature on the planet. Aside from your ex, of course. They can adapt their body temperature to the water and stay cold. They stay frosty, my friends. If they encounter warm water, God forbid, well, they simply won't survive. It's chilly waters or bust for ice fish. If you're wondering how they swim around without literally freezing solid, it's because, well, similarly to the fish that we had on part 1, these two create glycoproteins, which is a natural antifreeze, if you will. That's why they don't have chunks of ice hanging off of them, just weighing them down all day. They have a natural antifreeze, but no hemoglobin, so their blood is white. So underwater, they just look like nothing, really. Invisible ice fish. Yeah, this place is wild. Number 8, narwhals. The unicorn of the sea. Are these things real? I have never seen one before. But to be fair, I don't spend a lot of time in Arctic waters, so that makes sense. My last name has waters in it, but I don't really like the water, you know? Nor do I have a horn growing out of my head, so I don't belong anywhere near these guys. Narwhals can grow up to 17 feet in length. Their horn is mighty. Tusk, rather, they're one single head tusk. I like saying horn because it's majestic. It reminds you of unicorns, right? And narwhals are majestic. More often than not, males will grow the tusk, and female narwhals have these tiny little tusks. Scientists still can't explain the reason behind a narwhal's tusk in the first place. Why is it used? I mean, so far we believe it's to impress females. That's our main guess. Or hunt other males. Yeah, we got narwhals jesting in the ocean for love. A lot happening over in the Arctic. Number 7, walrus. Yeah, since we're on the topic of tusks, why not? These guys are also pretty bizarre when you really think about it. They have massive tusks coming out of their face. And I recently watched that horror movie with Justin Long called Tusk, and now I can't look at a walrus ever again the same. These Arctic creatures have some odd patterns. Their abilities are also extremely underrated. Their tusks can reach 3 feet, and they use them to hoist themselves out of the water. Yeah, they bite into the ice and then pull their fat bodies out. I can't even bite ice cream. Imagine using your teeth to get out of the ocean. Ugh, that's athletic, man. Walrus can also slow their heart rate down in order to save energy. That's also pretty neat. They have fantastic abilities to adapt, but humans, we almost sent these beautiful creatures into extinction. Classic. Classic humans just getting involved, wanting to take a look. Walrus hunting is now illegal for the most part, aside from a few areas, so these blubbery boys still have a fighting chance. But historically, a walrus have never attacked a human ever, so don't be afraid of them. They don't want any beef, just fish. Number 6, snailfish. Another fish, another fun fact. There's around 400 types of snailfish in the frigid depths of the Arctic. The frigid depths of the Arctic. Why'd I write myself tongue twisters. Now, of course, there are many that haven't even been discovered yet, which is always fun. Thankfully, we have researchers take on these daring expeditions, like The Secrets of Antarctica, for example. This documentary is breathtaking, and it's on YouTube for free. It was released back in 2019 on Track's official page. In this documentary, scientist Andrew Stewart finds a new species of snailfish. Yeah, spoiler alert, but had to include it. Now you want to take a look. He said the discovery is beyond words. Yeah, more than fair. Look at this thing. I wouldn't know what to say. He's a squishy tadpole looking rubbery fish. He looks quite sad. And to be fair, when you live 700 meters below in freezing cold water and you don't have much company, yeah, I'd be sad too. That is until Andrew Stewart came along and introduced you to the rest of the world. Now we know what this thing is. Massive eyes, unique color patterns. Not everything down there is terrifying. Just most things, I guess. Number 5, feather star. Scientific name is Promicocnerus gurgulenus. That's, I tried 17 other times, but we had to cut it out, so that's the best I could do. We'll call it feather star. Feather star is a little bit easier today. And dare I say, that name is quite fitting. Look at him go! He's like a mop head with feelings. He is on a mission. The feather star was discovered during the Challenger expedition way back in the early 70s. They're too fast. I mean, like, they're not fast, but they can really move around for what they are. 5 centimeters per second. That's pretty fast for an ice-cold crinoid. There's 3 main parts to this fantastic brush. There's the stem, the calyx, and the arms. Now these guys, they self-repair their body parts, which is just insane to me. They'll just yank off one of their arms and just grow a whole new one, like it's no problem. They trap prey. Well, rather they trap any food particles that float on by. They use their long feathery arms and their natural sticky mucus to catch food and then cycle it through their body. Feather stars reproduce every 10 to 16 months. I have my hands up, like I want to be a feather star. I don't know why I'm doing this. Hi, like RuPaul. Feather stars reproduce every 10 to 16 months, but it's tricky. Male and female sea stars live in different habitats, right? Different sides of the gymnasium during that first dance, right? They have to kind of get close. They're on opposite ends here. So mating season really has to go swimmingly or else their population is literally at stake. Hope they get along. Number 4, growler bear. Yeah, I said growler bear instead of polar bear. What about it? Let's talk. Does this bear do roller derby? Is that where it gets its name from? What's going on? Back in 2006, a Canadian hunter found a hybrid bear. They called it a Pizzly bear, or a growler bear. You get what I'm doing here. Because it looks like a mix of the two, but it actually was a hybrid. Yet tests were later conducted in 2010 after more appeared in Alaska and northern Canada. Historically, polar bears branched off of grizzlies, like DNA-wise way back. Now we're at a point where Arctic areas are warming up and these two species are both traveling further away to find food. So now these two branches are starting to merge back together, and in turn we get a growler bear. Which is just fun to say. A growler bear. Number 3, Arctic octopus. I watched my octopus teacher last week with Olivia, and we both bawled our eyes out. That was a great fun time. That was good. That was a nice date. I didn't know I could get so attached to an octopus. These little guys are fascinating. They dream. They use shells as tools and like shields. They can camouflage. They have 9 brains, 8 arms, 3 hearts, and hundreds of suckers, and 1 life. I don't know why I added that at the end. I didn't even add that. I was like, oh, we need a 1 here for this list. And Arctic octopus survive in sub-zero temperatures by using a blue pigment in their blood. They use a natural protein called hemocyanin. They oxygenate their bodies and they adapt to harsh environments, and most importantly, they're really cute. Yeah, look at this little guy. Their appendages are all tight. It keeps it warm and keeps it cozy. That's great. Little arms. Oh, I can't even look at him. He's so cute. Get him out of here. Get that guy out of here. I want to poke him. Number 2, basket stars. This next one here is truly a basket case. The basket star, scientific name Gorganocephalus, sounds like a Harry Potter villain, does not look like any type of sea star that we've seen before. Basket stars are brittle stars. They can crawl with these lanky, long appendages. I mean, I would definitely know. This one here was found at 500 meters below sea level, just walking around like haunted hay, just taking its time, just drifting along. It could also feed by floating along the surface of the water, so next time you take an ice cold dip, watch out you don't run into one of these. Keep your mouth shut when you're swimming, or else you'll get one of these brittle, fuzzy things in your mouth. Gross. And coming in at number 1, pile of bones. Look, I know this isn't a creature per se, but it's too interesting to leave out. Antarctica is another planet. That place looks like Hoth sometimes, especially in 2016. A team of researchers were working on James Ross Island, and they stumbled across 70-million-year-old fossils. Yeah, what a find. Ancient sea creatures, ancestors of ducks. This thing was a loaded pierogi of history. Researchers have also recently found that 75 million years ago, wildfires were once ripping through Antarctica. How wild is that? Dinosaurs and wildfires. Yeah, a little different than today's Antarctica, just a tad. Most ancient wildfire evidence has been found in the northern hemisphere, so to find the burnt remains of coniferous trees like charcoal fragments in Antarctica, it reminds us that once upon a time Antarctica was once fresh when it separated from Gondwana. It was isolated, it was ice-free, most importantly, and it was full of volcanic activity and high oxygen. Tectonic plates were running wild during the Cretaceous period. This was a wild time. Antarctica sure is barren now, but oh boy, are we lucky that's the case. Scary dinosaurs and fires. No thank you.
Number 10, hidden lakes. So it took working at a champagne restaurant to find out that salt water doesn't freeze. Well, it does, but at very, very low temperatures. We used to use it to hyperchill wine that was in storage because salty water can get colder than 0 degrees Celsius without freezing. The saltier the water, the colder it gets because salt lowers the freezing point because it interferes with the water molecule's ability to form crystals, which is at least one reason why Deep Lake in Antarctica has stayed liquid for millions of years. It sits 55 meters below the sea level, and the salinity of the water increases as it gets deeper. Despite temperatures reaching minus 20 degrees Celsius, the lake remains in a liquid state, though entirely uninhabitable, or so they thought. Scientists uncovered at least 4 microbe species living in the water, but that's about the only thing that can. Because the water can reach much colder temperatures than the sea, even penguins wouldn't survive for long. They have been caught swimming in it, but it would feel to them what it feels like for us jumping into an icy lake for a polar dip. If they stay too long, it would probably kill them. How the lake formed exactly still has scientists baffled, but they're probably, but let's be honest, they'll probably figure it out. Number 9, rainforests? Press rewind on the world for long enough and you would arrive in a world of opposites, which includes Antarctica being closer to a rainforest than an icy tundra. Scientists gather that before Antarctica was an expanse of ice, the region may have been host to lush forests, diverse wildlife, and even early human civilizations. But why do they think that? Scientists began discovering fossilized wood, leaf impressions, and signs of tropical trees. On top of that, they have found tons tons of fossils of marine animals, dinosaurs, and birds from the Cretaceous period, so you can see how they deduced the existence of some kind of forest-like area. Scientists are now looking to Antarctica for clues about evolution that we may have missed. So far, they've discovered a 50 million year old sperm cell on the egg case of a long extinct worm species, which is extraordinary if you think about it. Man, like, talk about resilience, buddy. Number 8. Mountains. Imagine the ice melts away, and beneath those massive, vast sheets of ice is an entire mountain range. Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine it, it's real. Hiding out beneath a 2 to 4 kilometer thick sheet of ice are what's called the Gamburtsev Mountains. They stretch across 1,200 kilometers and rise about a third of the height of Mount Everest. But how did an entire mountain range that high get covered in a sheet of ice? When Soviet geophysicist Grigory A. Gamburtsev made the discovery in 1958, he had the same question, though he hasn't actually seen the mountains covered by ice, remember, but was able to figure out that they were there by measuring the abnormal gravity fluctuations in the area. They have since used radars to interpret the physical attributes of the mountains, but how did they end up that far beneath the ice? The mountains are around 1 billion years old, and scientists figure they should have eroded away by now. But the most popular theory as to why they are still there is that the erosion process just paused as soon as the ice sheet got large enough. To picture how immense this is, just imagine that the Rocky Mountains are covered by a sheet of ice. Astounding. Number 6. Blood Falls. Blood Falls. Get your mind out of the gutter. Sounds pretty terrifying, as it would have been for the person who first discovered it. In the McMurdo Dry Valley, there's a bright crimson river that cuts between Taylor Glacier and Lake Bonny. It looks like someone went to town on their dinner and just let the bodies drain into the water, but thank goodness there's a scientific explanation. Beneath the glacier, there's a very briny lake that was cut off from the atmosphere and is 3 times as salty as seawater, meaning, as we know now, that it can't really freeze, but it can, I guess, at a very low level. At first, it was suspected that a kind of red algae had infiltrated the glacier, causing the vibrant red hue, but in actuality, the briny lake is incredibly high in iron, and since it was cut off from oxygen for millions of years, the red color is a product of the reaction the water has to the oxygen and the sunlight from the atmosphere. The iron in the water oxidizes and rusts, like your car, which brings out the vibrant red illusion that is Blood Falls. Number 5. Ancient meteorites. You may think meteorites and asteroids are dangerous, but something far less obvious may cause more damage than a doom rock. 430,000 years ago, smack dab in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch, a massive space rock the size of a soccer field crashed through Earth's atmosphere, but instead of smashing into the Earth, an airburst happened. Just before it slammed into the ice, it burst into pieces, exploding in the sky, and launched a superheated jet of gas. The explosion caused massive amounts of damage, scattering pieces of itself everywhere, which is how scientists were able to deduce that this happened. They found pieces of the asteroid across the ice and used chemical clues to link the particles together. They were also able to determine that the force of the blast was about, get ready, 1,000 times stronger than the nuclear blast at Hiroshima, and that destroyed an entire city, so imagine what would have happened if that happened today. Number 4. Oil guzzling fungi. So we mentioned that there might be a world-ending microbes beneath the ice, but there also could be something that saves it. A unique kind of fungi has been found beneath the ice gorging on petroleum. What on earth could that possibly be used for, you ask? Well, if these fun little guys love eating oil so much, then imagine how happy they'd be to dive into, let's say, an oil spill. They were first encountered when scientists came upon fuel containers left by explorers and immediately began studying them. Fungi don't usually just flourish at parties, they flourish in warm wooded regions, but perhaps the fungus that used to thrive in the rainforests we mentioned, they evolved to thrive in the icy barren conditions as well. So cool. We could learn so much about evolution that way. Number 3, top 3. Singing ice. Yup, the ice is singing. After scientists installed seismic sensors in the ice to measure its behavior, they discovered a mysterious song. Well, more like a massive ice drum. And it sounds like this. The pitch changes based on the weather, though you wouldn't be able to hear it should you just stand on it. It's not audible to the human ear. But the humming occurs on the 500,000 square kilometer on the Ross Ice Shelf, about the size of France. The winds blowing across the snow dunes is what causes the humming, and scientists figure that this could be an even better way to keep tabs on how the ice is doing in relation to global warming. The ice is thinning due to global warming, and the song is almost a gift, an easier way to track the stability and vulnerability of the ice shelf. Sounds like nature is working with us to save itself. Number 2. Cosmic particles. A mystery capable of breaking physics. If that were possible, it would be found in Antarctica. Since March 2016, researchers have been furrowing their brows over 2 distinct events that shouldn't have happened. Physicists caught cosmic rays that burst out from the Earth, not from space. The rays were detected by ANITA, NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, a balloon-borne antenna. The balloon is designed to find cosmic rays from outer space, and caused a lot of excitement when it caught them coming up from the Earth instead. The discovery even implied theories that could support parallel universes. What boggled scientists about this discovery is that 2 particles seem to be cosmic rays that blasted through the planet and back out the other side. They shouldn't be able to do that. They now suspect that they may be particles that defy the standard model of how particles are supposed to behave, and maybe they're a new type of particle altogether. This is obviously a very simplistic explanation. It gets a lot more complicated and there's still more information out there, but still, really, really cool. And last but not least, a hidden German base. There are several versions of this story, some even going so far as theorizing that World War II mustache man escaped there and didn't die in his bunker. Some theories even say that German intelligence encountered aliens and developed new weapons with their tech. But the one truth is that there was indeed a secret World War II German base in Antarctica. Apparently there was an expedition to establish a base as a whaling station in order to increase Germany's production of fat, which could be used for soap and mayonnaise and butter. The expedition was led by Alfred Richter, and other theories suggest Adolf himself sent the expeditions to research ways Germany could become a self-supporting country. Perhaps the reason was that innocent, but with the base having been abandoned 70 years ago, we will never know.